So rather than talk anymore, I think it's better to just show a demonstration to give you a sense of the application and the way it works. And then I will talk a bit more about some of the architecture and some of the design decisions that we've made so that you can get a sense of what's going on under the hood. So I'm going to log into one of our applications here. This is the application for a project that we are on, where we are the data hub for a pediatric cardiac genetics consortium. And so I'm going to be showing you just some of the capabilities of Harvest in the context of this specific project. So down the left-hand side of the screen, we have all the data elements that are available. In the middle of the screen, we have an interactive pane, which I'll show you in a moment. And then on the right-hand side of the screen, we have specific filters that have been applied. Now, I've already been in here. One of the things the system does is it keeps track of your filters and your preferences, and so when you log out or leave, everything is the way it was when you left. So I actually have some filters already in place. And so when I choose filters, either from ones I've already selected here or on the left-hand side, I get an interactive display in the middle showing a graphical representation of the data or whatever representation is most appropriate. In this case, I've actually selected true here, so I'm looking for individuals with left ventricular outflow tract obstructions. I can also add in some exome data availability here, so I've added this as a choice as well. And then this is an example of what we do with quantitative data. So in this case, this age criterion is showing a histogram and the number of records in the database in total at all these different ages, and then I'm selecting a specific range. And so all of these interactive graphs are dynamic. They're based on the data in the database. They are generated and stored as metadata, and so as you explore the data, you can come to get an understanding of what's actually in the database. One of the challenges of large data warehouses is that people who aren't intimately familiar with the data don't necessarily know what's inside, and so being able to just browse around the user interface, and I wouldn't necessarily even have to pick some of these, so I could pick some of these other categories. You get some sense of the breakdown of individuals in the database and what their characteristics are, and this can be extremely helpful just in terms of knowing what questions you can ask and whether or not you're going to find anything. Now these are not dynamically updated, so as I add criteria over here, these are not being updated to reflect my actual query, and we do that mainly for performance reasons, just to avoid having to recompute some of these things, which could be expensive. The other thing we have over here is a search. This search does a free text search lookup. It's looking at names, descriptions, and actually the data itself. So if I know I have a field that has a value, I can type in the value and it will identify those fields that have that value. And so we see here when I type in 22q11, this particular clinical attribute has this value. You can see this actually turns out to be a value in a number of fields, which you may not necessarily know if you were not indexing that data. As I add criteria, the count of individuals over here on the right will update. So for example, if I wanted to flip this around a little bit, let's say I wanted the people who did not have exome data, I can make a change here and update my filter, and we will get a count there. So those are all the individuals that do not. I'm going to change this back and update my filter again. And so once you build up your list of queries, your list of filter conditions here, you can then run a query and actually get back a report. And again, this report was a standard report that I already had in place, so I've already chosen some columns. You can choose, again, from a similar list, you can choose the columns to display. These columns on the right-hand side are the ones I'm displaying. I can drag these around to choose a different order of columns, and I can remove them if I so desire. Here you can see an example of some simple formatting we're doing here. So we have a link to a pedigree image here. And then for each record that we return, we can actually go in and look at specific details. So we can actually click on a specific record and pull up all the details about that individual. And so if you see something that looks interesting and you need to dig into more detail, you can do that as well. We also have an export capability. So once you have a data set that you're interested in, you can get the data out, which, as I said earlier, we're really trying to enable, and we provide a number of different formats here to get data out into a native format that's useful for analysis. So this is a very quick overview of the kinds of things that you can do, just to orient you and get you thinking about how the application works and what it looks like. So I'll jump back now to the slide deck and just talk a bit more about how we're doing all this and how this is